Good morning. Folks, January 1973, I remember very distinctly, we had coal mines in India and they got nationalized. The government took over. And right from being a mine owner, we came on the street. Street means street. We had 1,000 people working. My father had died when I just about finished college. We were left with the liabilities and the assets were gone. And I was just married 4 weeks then. Some of you are calculating my age, but that's your problem. But folks, I saw my life change. We started selling little things to get money for food. We started selling furniture. I remember a year later, my daughter was born, and I sold some of the last pieces of my mother's jewelry to get released from the hospital. Did not have $10 to buy milk that night. I tried my hands on 3 businesses with no money, and I failed in all 3. Finally, November 13, 1975, I decided to leave India. My sister sponsored me from Canada, went to Toronto, rented a 1-bedroom apartment. We were sleeping on the floor. We had no furniture. My wife is an MBA. She took up a job as a cashier at a bank at $600 a month to keep money coming in for food. And I used to go out wearing my suit and my tie, doing nothing. And when people asked me, what do you do for a living? I was embarrassed to tell them I am unemployed. I used to say, I do import, export. Now don't get me wrong, I tried. Went on like this for a year. Now just about that time, after a year, I was going through a trade show and a young Canadian was following me from behind, looked like a handyman, came close, asked my name, and he asked me, what do you do for a living? I said, import, export. And he asked me, how much money do you make? Now, I did give him a rather flat answer. I said, that's none of your business. But that day, it got me thinking, it doesn't matter how many suits and ties you wear, people can tell you got nothing inside. Well, I asked him, his name was Bill Weir, and I said, what do you do for a living? He said, I simonize cars. Now, folks, people who don't know what simonizing is, it's a glorified word for washing cars with the machines, that's all. Well, I asked him, how much money do you make? He says sometimes $25, $30, $45, $55, depending on the number of cars I wash. As we went out of the auditorium, as if he could read my mind, right outside he stopped me, looked into the eye, and he asked me, would you like to wash cars with me? I started thinking, how long can I go like this? I got nothing to eat. I asked him, what will you pay me? He said, I'll take off $5 for the chemicals, rest we will split half. I said, when do we start? He said, tomorrow. I asked him, I said, Bill, washing cars is not high tech. You're doing well by yourself. You don't need a joint venture collaboration. Why do you want to split money with me? He said, Shiv, washing cars alone can get very lonely. I just need somebody to talk to, that's all. Well, next day went out washing cars. We made $25 each. The day after, 45, 25, 55. Every day started making little money, and I started buying things for the home. And right about that time, I saw an ad in the newspaper. You want to make some extra money, do the door-to-door demos for vacuum cleaners. I'm sure you must have seen those. I responded to the ad. There were a couple of 100 people. They gave us a pep talk, and they said, go do the demo. And every demo you do, you get paid $5. Folks, I was genuinely naive. I actually believed we only had to do the demo and not to sell. So I used to go to an apartment building, knock a door. When the lady or the man used to open, I used to say, ma'am, you don't have to buy the vacuum cleaner. All that you got to do is take a demo and I'll get paid $5. So some people took pity on me, let me come in. Some people kicked me out and some people slammed the door, and that was fine. One day, I was doing a demo in an Indian family's home. And the man and woman were sitting on the sofa and I was on the floor. And this man, instead of looking at the vacuum cleaner, he kept looking at me all the time. So I asked him, "Sir, did I do something wrong?" He said, "No." I said, "Then why do you look at me this way?" He asked me, "Shiv, have you ever sold life insurance?" I said, "No, I have never sold life insurance, and besides, I never will." Because I remember back home in India, that agent, that pest, who would not leave your life for 3 hours till you signed the application. I said, no wonder they call them life insurance agents, because they don't leave your life. Well, I said, I will never be that pest in my life. He said, "No, Shiv, it doesn't work that way here. Look at me. I'm a life insurance agent. Look at my lifestyle. I drive a Lincoln." Later on, I came to know he was working for MetLife, and they had a recruitment drive going on. If you recruited a new salesperson, you would get a Samsonite briefcase. So I was the briefcase. Well, folks, I finished the demo and I left, but when you cannot go straight, you go the other way around. We were living in the same building, and somehow his wife became friendly with my wife and convinced her that selling life insurance was the right thing to do. And my wife also knew we couldn't go through life washing cars. We had to do something different. I had a family to support our little daughter, and my wife also knew my failure record in life was pretty good. Even in school, I wasn't the brightest kid. I was the backbencher troubling the front benchers. In my 8th grade, out of 6 or 7 subjects, I failed in all except one. So my principal called me and said, "Shiv, you're paying too much attention on one subject." Well, folks, out of 28 kids, I was number 27 because the 28th was absent. No kidding. My principal used to call my parents and tell them, "Get this kid out of the school. He's one kid who's going to bring the average of the school." Well, I was bringing the average down. I told my wife I'm not selling life insurance. She said, "Shiv, to sell life insurance, you gotta take an exam. Why don't you take the exam, and if you pass, you have a choice. Right now, you have no choice." I said, "All right, I'll take the exam, but I won't sell." Folks, I took the exam, and guess what? I passed. Well, this guy who's got everything rolling took me to his office, introduced me to his district manager, was a very sharp elderly man by the name of Joe Bonney, and he said, "Shiv, if you decide to become life insurance agent right now, I'll give you a draw of $150 a week, and I'll give you time to think before I withdraw the offer." He said, "You got 30 seconds to decide." I said, "Joe, you said you'll give me time to think." He said, "You have 20 left now." I said, "I'll take it." And now I became a life insurance agent, which I never in my life ever wanted to be. Now, they gave me the book, they gave me a little training, and they said, "Boy, go sell." And folks, for the next 3 months, I went out selling. I put in 100%. Why 100%? I actually put in 200%. We all can tell when we've done our best. We all can tell when we've not done our best. I can look at the mirror and say, I did my best. And guess what? I broke the company's record. Well, obviously, you're not impressed, are you? Oh, thanks a lot. Well, wait till you find which record I broke. How many sales I made? Almost none. So my manager called me right back. He said, "I've been in this life insurance business 35 years, and I've seen some slow starts in my life, but I've never seen one like you." He said, "Don't come back tomorrow, you're fired." I said, "Wait a minute, Joe, before you fire me, at least you hear me out. I'm not an educated person. I'm not a doctor, engineer, attorney, accountant. I'm a BCom 3rd division, failed in my 10th. I got a handicap. How do you expect performance out of me?" Folks, that day, somebody spoke very harshly to me, and I'm glad he did. And later on, I realized it was not anger, it was concern. And here's what he said to me. He said, "You shut up! You shut up and listen to me." He said, "You don't have a handicap, you got a bad attitude. And it is people like you, not only do they ruin their own lives, but they also ruin their family's life too." And he said, "Do you know who has a handicap in life?" He said, "The doctor, engineer, attorney, accountant, they all have handicaps." I said, "Boy, never heard that one. How do they have handicaps?" He said, "Go check out all over the world. It is generally true, exceptions different. They all have chosen their field, they are stuck. They all have chosen the field, they're stuck." He said, "You haven't chosen your field. Don't you see the world is open to you?" I said, "Joe, I never thought from that point of view." He said, "Now that you're fired," he said, "you got all the time to think." Said, "Leave my office." Folks, I left his office that day. That evening, I had an appointment about 30 miles away. I had a choice to keep or not to keep. I knew I had no job next day. I might or might not get paid for it. Well, I decided to keep that appointment that evening. It was 6:30. While I was driving, having failed one after the other in my life, that night I was feeling so depressed. I don't know what happened to me. I just burst out into crying. I couldn't understand what was going on in my life. I had a family to support. I had a little daughter. I didn't know how to earn a living. I kept crying. I kept praying. That night, that 30 miles distance seemed like 30 earths. It's a lot easier to talk about it tonight. It was not easy that night. 7 o'clock, I reached my appointment, got a handle on myself, went up, started selling. By the time the man looked at his watch, it was 11:30. I got in at 7. No wonder they call life insurance agent pest. 4.5 hours. I was sitting there. He said, "Do you realize what time it is?" It's a polite way of saying get out. And he said, "I got to go to work tomorrow morning." I said, "I realize." But somehow that night I wasn't moving. He looked at me. I looked back at him. I don't know what got into this person's mind around 11:30. He asked me, "What does it take to get rid of you right now?" I thought he was asking me the rates on the insurance. I opened the book back again, looked at the age, looked at the factor, multiplied with insurance, and I said, "Sir, that'll be $27.58. He said, "What?" I said, $27.58. He looked at me disgustingly. "Why didn't you tell me when you walked in?" He wrote me a check, and he says, "Take this and get out before I change my mind." Folks, that was one of my first sales. Came home midnight. Next morning, I went to my office. I went to my manager and I said, "Joe, I got an application today. It's a small one, but it's a bound one with a check, but without a check has no meaning." And I said, "Joe, will you let me stay? I make one commitment to you. I will not let you down because of my effort. But if you fire me today, I don't know where to go. The only place I know where to go is go back to washing cars." And I said, "I don't want to do that anymore. I got a family to support. But I commit. I won't let you down." He looked at me. He says, "Shiv, that's not your small one. That's your big one." And he said, "I'll only let you stay here if you make a commitment, not to me, but to yourself. I'll let you stay." Folks, that day I made a commitment. That day I made a commitment. And that was one of the turning points in my life. And he withdrew the papers. And that year I went ahead, sold close to $1 million. Next year, $3 million. The year after, close to $5 million. Moved on to the U.S., got into 3 businesses, bought out a company out of California in 1984, started a New Jersey operation with no clients, and I sold my company with close to 500 clients. Now, folks, why do I share my life with you? For a few reasons. Number one, I kept failing all my life and kept blaming the whole world for my failure, not realizing that I was my own biggest problem. Nothing changed outside, something changed inside here, and the direction in my life changed. Folks, let me ask you, many times in life, aren't we our own biggest problem? And the second lesson I learned was, folks, when he said to me, "You shut up and listen to me," I learned that day. Sometimes in life you got to be unkind to be kind. And I realized one more thing, that the greatest coaches in the world are the greatest critics in the world. Folks, and that they also realized one thing, that there are only two relationships in life that care to correct. World punishes. Only two relationships in life care to correct. Only parents and teachers in life care to correct. The world punishes. And that's the time I realized the difference between a promise and a commitment. Folks, a promise is an agreement we make with the world. A commitment is an agreement we make with ourselves. And folks, unfortunately, today's world runs away from commitments. In fact, they confuse the word commitment with confinement. Not true. In fact, confinement restricts you. Commitment frees you in life to do a lot of things. And folks, that's the time I realized the difference between a moral commitment and a legal commitment. I realized that in life, moral commitments are way stronger than legal commitments. And in this world of commitment phobia, the basic ingredients to success is missing. And if we want to succeed in life, we need to make a first commitment to our values. That is integrity. Live a life of integrity. That's first commitment. 2, we need to make a commitment to ourselves. 3, we need to make a commitment to our families. 4, we need to make a commitment to our organizations and our customers. And 5, we need to make a commitment to society. Only then, and then only, we have the basic ingredient and foundation to success. God bless. Thank you very much.